the Engineering Diversity and Inclusion Council, in partnership with the Society of Women Engineers and the Ideas Coalition, welcomes you to our 14th episode of our Walking the Walk Together panel series. This will feature a panel of Santa Clara University community leaders speaking on their women empowerment and focus on tips and tricks for negotiations for salaries, promotions, and so much more. It is our hope that these panels start conversations, educate allyship, and bring together all corners, cultures, generations, and hierarchies within Santa Clara University to turn words into actionable steps to help move our community forward in a positive way together. We hope we can create a constructive atmosphere that nurtures ideas and real solutions for the real issues that we are discussing. Please note that the panel is being recorded and shared later on our Santa Clara University Engineering YouTube channel. If you want to watch any of our past panels and hear from panelists like Sidel Curry-Lee, Dr. Tracy Panera, Dr. Ellen Ochoa, Dr. Joanna Thompson, and others, you can find the recordings at www.scu.edu/engineering/WTWT. We hope we can create a constructive atmosphere that nurtures ideas and real solutions for the real issues we're discussing. Before we start, there are a few house rules. This is a safe space, and we are here to support. The panel will be recorded, but the recording will stop once the panel is over. And we just want to issue a trigger warning for any content, any sensitive content we may be discussing. My name is Priya Jain, and I am the student moderator, majoring in web design and engineering. And I would like to introduce our guest panelists. As you say your name, it would be great if you could also take a minute to tell the audience a little bit about who you are. Let's start with Dr. Jack.
Hopefully this is working. Okay. So hi, I'm Jes Kuczenski. I'm the Director of General Engineering. I've been here since 2014 at Santa Clara, and I stepped into the director's role about 6 years ago. And we're happy to report a lot of growth in general engineering. We're starting a new systems engineering program, so if anybody's interested in that. Yeah, I teach a lot of the first year students. I teach a lot of design courses, community outreach, and senior capstone. And I really like learning about design and prototyping, and I'm a very divergent thinker. So if you need help with anything brainstorming wise, I'm very good at that.
Up next, we have Kayla Johnson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Johnson. I am a recent graduate from Santa Clara. I graduated with my degree in bioengineering, my BS in 2020, and then my master's in bioengineering in 2021. And while I was a master's student, I was lucky enough to work as a TA for Dr. Jack and Dr. Doyle in the general engineering department. So while I was at Santa Clara, I participated in a couple of different student organizations. I was lucky enough to be on the board of SCUE and its vice president for a couple of years, as well as on the board of Own It. I was also a Levy School of Business Global Fellow and the Miller Center Social Enterprise intern. So I spread myself around a lot of different things, but I now work at an OEM robotics company called T-Pin Systems. We specialize in healthcare and lab automation robotics, where I currently work as a senior product support engineer. So again, I get to do lots of different things through my job, including low-level R&D, quality-related projects, and as well as product development.
Thank you. Now, lastly, we have Brianna McGovern.
Hi, I'm Brianna McGovern. I graduated from Santa Clara University undergrad in 2020 in computer science and engineering, and my master's in 2022 in engineering management and leadership. While undergrad, I worked for 3 years for the Dean's Office as an events coordinator and later as an engineering tour guide with Kayala. And during my master's, I had 2 TA-ships with the Frugal Innovation Hub and with the Association of Graduate Engineering Students. And at the same time, I was continuing my internship at Seagate Technology, where after graduating, I moved to be full-time. That's where I am today.
Thank you all so much. I'd just like to note that there will be time for a Q&A after the discussion. So let's go ahead and dive in. You don't have to answer every question or any question you're not comfortable with, but feel free to jump in when you have something to add. But we're going to start with a general question for everyone. And at the end of our set questions, if we still have time, we can take questions from the audience or panel soon. And at that time, we would ask the audience to please raise your hand and when to be called on. So the first question is, what is your why? What made you decide to major in engineering and end up there today?
Sure. So I had tried one intro to computer science class in high school, and I just loved the math and science, and it was always like solving a puzzle, and it was just fit. And then, what really made me stick with engineering was the fact that as technology becomes more and more ingrained in our society, I thought I could have a positive impact on doing that in a good way for society.
Yeah, I have kind of a similar story. I would say I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when I signed up to be a bioengineering major, or even started applying to colleges as a bioengineering major. But what I knew about myself was that I liked problem solving, troubleshooting, kind of my math and science classes. And so it seemed like the right path for me. I was a Girl Scout through my senior year at high school, so I completed until my gold award. And I always had and was raised with kind of a strong sense of, I guess, like a strong desire to serve others and be able to give back to my community, which I think also aligns with the direction that biotech is taking right now. And I do feel like I get to see that lived through my experience at work. Maybe not every day, but at least most days, most good days, which is nice. And I hope eventually, throughout college, I was able to kind of live on some of that desire to give back to my community through organizations like Global Fellows and the Miller Center. And I do hope that eventually that's something that I can really get back to as a core part of my career.
And this question I had to think about a little bit because it's a long time ago that I tried to major in engineering. But so I was a chemical engineer in my undergrad days, and I think I really didn't give a whole lot more thought other than I was good at math and chemistry, and I really liked thinking about problems, taking things apart. If you ask my parents, they said I was going to be an engineer when I was 6, and I took apart the VCR and it started popping off all the capacitors. So that was a bad day in my household. But yeah, just the idea of engineering as a service profession really calls me. And I really like the idea of bringing new solutions to life and making positive impacts in the community. And so lately, most of my work has been kind of in that design and outreach innovation space. Something else I was going to add. Oh, yeah. So why do I still do this is a question. And that's because I'm still basically at school, right? I haven't left after many, many years. And I remember the single day that I had this epiphany that people actually need to learn how to learn, right? And there's research areas in how to learn, and engineering education was a very growing space at that time. It's come a long ways since then even. And so I saw the ability to actually manifest change through academics and actually produce engineers that were better suited for what we're asking them to do. And so that's really been the passion of mine, which is why I still do this. And of course, most of what draws me in is the students, right? Being able to work with students that are young and curious and learning and very excited to go and make that impact in the world.
Thank you so much. So the next question is, how would you describe your experience as a Bowman engineer in college, or some of the biggest surprises, challenges, success?
So I may have an actually different experience coming from the bioengineering major at Santa Clara than some of my other female peers in STEM, just because I think, and I don't know if this even still holds true, but at least when I was a student a couple years back, the bioengineering major was actually pretty 50-50. And so I never really felt like outnumbered in any of my classes, I would say. And I was lucky enough, I got to participate in lots of different women led organizations on campus like SCUengineering Own It, which I think did really help give me a sense of community. But I would say my experience has changed a little bit since graduating. The company that I now work for is predominantly, or my team and the close teams that I work with are predominantly men. And I wouldn't say that I've had any really negative experiences being a female, and sometimes the only female in the room or the only female in some of the conversations that I have. But it's definitely something that doesn't go unnoticed, I would say, in my day-to-day work life. And I honestly, and I know there are a lot of negative experiences out there, but I want to talk about some of the positive experiences as well. I think that in a lot of situations, at least in my career, I've been able to bring to the table a different perspective. And I felt listened to and heard and respected, in my opinion. I would say at least 9.5 out of 10 times. And it's definitely can be challenging, and like I said, it doesn't go unnoticed. But I think I work on a team that really does value my opinion, which is nice and something that I definitely I appreciate and don't take for granted.
I think the biggest challenge just coming to school was imposter syndrome. So like starting freshman year, and you're in classes with people who took AP computer science in high school. They had internships at FANG companies like multiple years. That was really intimidating. And it felt like I was never going to catch up. But there was a really strong community, at least in the computer engineering and the whole school of engineering. So I think computer engineering is about like 30%, maybe a little bit more, like male-female ratio. And most of the classes I was in, I wasn't really ever like the only ever girl in them. And I liked that we had a lot of female professors in the engineering school that were really good mentors and examples of like what you can do. And I'll share that. I lost it. Wait for me if you come back with it. My experience was probably a little bit different just because it was so long ago. I actually also felt I was in chemical engineering, which was another 50-50 type of program, even when I went through. And I think I didn't feel ever outnumbered in the classroom or whatnot when I was in college. But the women professors were not as available. So there were much fewer women teaching. I went to Iowa State University, so at that time. And I remember they had just hired a brand new faculty member, and it was a woman, and I was so excited. And then I think, the life of the early tenure junior faculty is not amenable to being a mentor in the way that perhaps some of us needed. But that experience in college wasn't bad. I did have one advisor that I was randomly selected for that I did have bad experiences with. He did not respect me in general, and I can't speak for any other people's experience, but I had a bad first semester, and it was because I taught mono right before finals week. And I emailed my professors, I was 1 out of 500 in these big classes. And they basically gave me the option of taking the final then, or taking it at the final the next semester. And I thought I'd probably do that as well if I took it with 102 temperature or next quarter. And so I just took it. And anyway, things didn't go well when you can't really focus. And so I came out of that that semester with a really bad GPA. And the advisor took that as, you're stupid, you must not be an engineer, right? And so that was the experience to start. There was also some sexism and stuff that went along with it, but I remember distinctly being like, should I leave or should I not, right? Should I do this or not? And then in the advisor realm, should I keep this advisor or not? And I remember keeping the advisor because he was the only one that taught senior design. And I knew I was gonna have to have him, and I was worried that if I dropped him, then he would have some bias against me or something, so I kept him. And then the year that I went through senior design, he was on sabbatical. So let this be a lesson to you that don't put up with stuff just because you think it matters, right? He probably wouldn't have remembered me at all, but at the time it seemed like a major thing. Anyway, long story short,
I was going to echo what Gal was saying about industry, though. Industry is still not caught up. The faces in industry are not reflective of the faces you see in college yet. I'm hoping that's changing. But I did go to an internship, I think it was after my sophomore year, that I was the only female anywhere. Like I didn't see another female, and I was an intern, all these other people, and that shocked the heck out of me. And so that was an experience I don't wish on anybody else in terms of you should be aware that college is not industry and industry is not college, and things will be different. And that's one of the reasons I like to sit on panel, because that experience changed the way that I perceived a lot of things. Not necessarily in a bad way, but just in a awareness way, right? I wasn't aware that it was going to be that way. So I mean, those are my stories.
I'll follow up with my final thought, and that's the team I work on now, we're actually 50-50 male female. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, so speaking of moving into the industry, one of the many challenges that we face is equal pay to men. What has been your experience in this, and what tips would you give women as they move up in their profession to negotiate a fair salary, compensation, promotions, things like that?
I teach whole courses on this, so just tell me when to be quiet. I just wanted to start with an anecdote. So I teach in the LEAD 21 course, which is exploring engineering vocation. And I had a student many years back that shared an experience with me. So she was a female student, and she was, I think, in computer science, and she took an internship, and she just, took the first offer that they gave her, right? It was just a summer salary pay, and she was like, good, I'll have some pay, I have some work, great. And the person sitting right next to her was a classmate of hers in the same exact year, same exact major. Everything was, very, very similar, except for this student negotiated. And she made twice what the student sitting right next to her did. So that is a cautionary tale, is that you should always negotiate. You should always ask for more than you think you can get and come down to where there's equal compensation. So I would just start there and let other people chime in. But I do teach whole courses on this, so I will keep chiming in.
Yeah, I hadn't actually had any experience negotiating my salary or asking for increased compensation for a job or anything like that until I started my first job out of college. And I spent my time doing my research before I went into the conversation, just because I really had no sense, mostly because I had no sense of what to expect, but also because I wanted to go in strong and like I knew what I was doing. So I spent my time doing my research. I hadn't been able to take any classes or really have any conversations while I was at Panelist that revolved around negotiating salaries or anything like that. So I did reach out to some family friends of mine that I knew, were women and had been through this before. I reached out to one of my best friend's moms, works in actually in like salary and policy law, and just asked for some advice on how to enter those conversations. And similarly, I was able to negotiate my salary quite a bit for my first job, just because I think I went in knowing not only that I had done my master's degree, but I had my company was also hiring several other people for similar or for parallel positions at the same time. I knew I had my master's degree and I had put in some extra time in school. I did my research on what salaries look like for an entry-level position in this field in California, and specifically in this local area. So I knew, I had done my research and I went in knowing what I was going to ask for. And it worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah, same thing. Like every time I have to do one of those, I go back, I redo all of my research again. I read all the articles. I watch some videos to get myself in the right headspace for it. Definitely always have a number in mind. Something I'd add is, sometimes the pay isn't going to be able to change. It's not negotiable. And in those cases, you can always ask for other things, like ask about bonuses, ask about, RSUs, ask about PTO and getting more of that and all those things, because As I understand it, a good manager is going to want to keep you around, and it's better for the company because it costs them less money. They don't want to retrain somebody else to do your job. They want to retain the talent that they've already invested into. So especially if you have experience there already, I think like if you're going back in to like ask for a raise or a promotion, like definitely like use that to your advantage. And if the answer is still no, then the response to that should be, okay, like what can I do to get there? How can I do it? Can you put me up for opportunities? And on top of that, like when can we revisit this? Like with the cadence of going to be like reviewing this. So I want to carry on this conversation.
And I'll just add something to echo it because there is an entire benefits package in addition to salary, right? And so, Brianna mentioned a couple of them, like PTO, like how many vacation days you get, and other policies, right? You can, especially in this day and age, you can negotiate for how much remote work you do. Like if you want to work from home 1 day a week or 2 days a week, or even half days a week, right? You can kind of negotiate some of that. Moving expenses. One thing I wanted to add is that it's much better to negotiate, not just for one-time bonuses, but for like regular types. And so make sure that you know the hiring schedule and the review cycles. Because one of the things you could negotiate for is instead of an annual review, you could do every 6 months or something, right? And that's more likely to raise your pay faster than some other process. So there are a lot of kind of tips and tricks around that benefits package that are sometimes even more impactful than starting salary.
Thank you. So what did Santa Fe University do to help prepare you for this? Or would you wish Santa Fe University could have done to better prepare you?
I can start with what we're starting to do, and maybe that will help with what should we be doing, because I would love to hear more about what we should be doing. So I teach the LEAD 21 class, which is all about helping, first gen students that don't have the same network as some other students might, to learn how to do some of that networking, learn about job negotiations, career documentation, all of those kinds of pieces that they don't have anyone in engineering that they can kind of lean on. And so that's one course, but I wish that course was available to everybody. And so right now, LEAD pays me to do that, which is why I can do that. But it's something that we've talked about in a couple different circles, and I'm hoping it'll become more campus-wide. One of the things that's kind of come out of that conversation is Sean O'Keefe over in the business school started a company a couple years back that's called Career Launch. And it's specifically about the networking piece. But that has been offered several times at Santa Clara and around the world now, and around the nation. But it very much covers kind of the cold networking, the strategies. It has templates, right? It's to really help grow that network so that when you're looking for a career job or an internship, that you actually have a network to pull from. And so it's very much focused around like career conversations. We touch on a few other things like interviewing. We make sure that they have what's, like a personal brand statement, like an elevator pitch, so that they can start some of that interview process. We take a look at some of their career documentation, like we mentioned resumes and cover letters, but that's not really the purpose of the class. The purpose of the class is much more around networking. And it's been offered extracurricularly, co-curricularly, and curricularly now. So I'm involved in lots of different cohorts. And it's a class that I'm trying to keep going in the engineering school. We offered it this winter multidisciplinary. So it was a course that was shared between the College of Arts and Science and the School of Engineering. And we had, I think, 24 people that went through the course successfully. And it's only a 5-week course that meets once a week and lots of just asynchronous, like small pieces. So I think it's in a pretty good format. But we're having the conversation to just be more like a core class. How should we get this integrated better into the curriculum? Because right now it feels very voluntary, and a lot of people don't know what they don't know, right? So it's hard to kind of take that first step.
I did one program at SCU that was really helpful. I did in the graduate school, the Intel Upwards Unite program. That they brought in mentors from Intel, like women that worked there, and they paired us up for like 1 or 2 students with a mentor, and they would just have like every month a different set of speakers or speaker come in and talk about either industry like hot topics or career advancing kind of topics, and that actually proved to be really helpful. Things that maybe could have been better. I wasn't a lead scholar, but I definitely felt like there were so many kids that in school that, had engineers in their family or like are from here and like they did have those networks already. And I was like, I had no idea how to even get that started. So what you're describing sounds really, really good.
Yeah, I didn't really have any experience from Santa Clara, I would say, in terms of negotiating my salary or asking for promotions. And of course, a lot of student organizations hold events to promote networking and, writing your elevators pitch and writing your resume and things like that. But I think negotiations and salaries, especially for women, is something that isn't discussed nearly often enough. And it's something that I was lucky enough this last year and continue to be part of the Mentor Collective program at Santa Clara, where as an undergraduate, I get paired with some students, mostly juniors and seniors, who are looking for internships and jobs and kind of beginning the next step in their postgraduate careers. And that is one of the things that I like to discuss across the board, men and women that I get to mentor. And we do a lot of practicing, not just for like interviews and things like that, but also for negotiations and asking for promotions, raises, and things like that.
Yeah, the Mentor Collective is a great resource. I know we have it kind of in two parts now. So the lower division students, like the first years and sophomores, they're paired with an older, like an upper division student. And then the upper division students are paired with close alumni. And they really do make a big effort to pair you with someone that would be a good mentor to you in the space of, it could be cultural, it could be gender, it could be a lot of things. And so they try to look at background and some of those similarities. So that's a good plug for that. The other thing is that the Career Center has really made some big leaps in terms of what they can offer. They do resume stuff, but they also have internet or interviewing stuff now. And they have one-on-ones. They've done a whole bunch of things like coffee chats, trying to bring industry to campus. And so they've really done a really good job in the past few years to make sure there's more resources available that everybody's aware of. So those two things I think are also helpful. And then like Kayla mentioned, there's a whole bunch of student orgs and stuff that do some. I have the faculty advisor for Data Cal, and one of their pillars is professional. And so they do try to do some of that networking stuff. So again, find community, it helps build your network. So there is not just a job market.
I'll second the Career Center. I think I spent a lot of time on Handshake undergrad.
Thank you. What advice would you give your peers or other students?
I think one of my biggest takeaways is entering the workforce actually, and I would say it took me, I was pretty shy up until the last couple of years here. It took me a while to get comfortable asking for help from other people, and I would say even in college until like my junior and senior years, I was not someone who went to office hours, and then everything changed and my life changed for the better. And I think in my career now, I ask, and I've been in the same position for almost 2 years now, and I ask for help probably every day from someone, not just from my boss, but from my teammates and from people from other departments. I'm constantly working. One of the things that I love about my job role specifically is that I work on something new almost every single day, which is really exciting and keeps me really involved and motivated, but also requires me to ask for a lot of assistance sometimes. And there's really no shame in that, I would say.
I had a piece of advice somebody had given me. I was trying to decide what to study for my master's, and they said, well, do the thing that like scares you the most, that you're afraid to do. If you don't like it, you can always, quit doing it, switch to the easier thing. But if you don't try it, then like you're never gonna know. And it's the same thing about like asking for a raise or promotion or anything like that, or even applying for the job. If you don't apply or you don't ask, you're never gonna know what the answer is. So just do it. Just do the scary things like panels and whatnot. And I second that mostly because, so how do I want to put this? The network that you build here on campus is one of the most important networks you're going to build. And so
I want to make sure that that's resonated, right? Because what we do in Career Launch and what I do in League 21 is make sure that the very first tool that you're on is LinkedIn, because the alumni network at Santa Clara is amazing, right? There's somebody everywhere, and that's your first step to a lot of those types of connections. And what people don't realize is that you should put your professors in there, right? You should be connecting to your professors. You should be connecting to your peers, right? Everybody you meet is a connection. And you never get to those like second or third degree connections, which might be in the jobs you want, if you don't make the first degree connection, right? So you really do have to kind of build that network. And school is actually built as a safety net. That is the purpose of academia, right? It's not just knowledge, it's a safety net. You can try and fail, it'll be okay. Now don't go fail all your classes, but you can try and fail. And that's one of the big benefits of school. So if you're scared to try something, try it now, not at your job where failure means something completely different.
All right, thank you for such a meaningful conversation. Now it is time for each of our panelists' closing statements. We'll start with Dr. Jes Kuczenski.
Closing statements. So I didn't get the questions beforehand, so I went some of this is on the fly. What do I want to say? I want to say I am a network generator. So if you have questions on who to go ask about something, come and see me. I will give you tools and tips and tricks, and you can connect to me on LinkedIn, and I will help you generate some of that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's about it for me.
Thank you, Dr. Jack. Now, Kayla Johnson.
I didn't prepare a closing statement either, but my closing statement will include, feel free to add me on LinkedIn to start building your network. And like Dr. Jack and Brianna both said, your network is everything, and this community that we have here at Santa Clara, I think we're very lucky to have. And I encourage everyone to really take advantage of it when you can.
Yeah, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'll add you both after this. And, I think you really get out of school, your job, your network, everything, you get out what you put in. So if you're putting in the like extra effort, then that's going to pay off. So just hold on to that, even if it doesn't feel like it all the time. Just make a knot at the end of your rope and hold on.
Thank you all so much. I truly learned a lot from each and every one of you. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and for making time today from your busy schedules to join us. Thank you for sharing your perspectives, stories, helping us further the conversation on such important issues during such a critical time in our history, and for helping us move our Santa Clara University community forward in a positive direction with visions and goals. As a reminder, this event has been recorded and will be posted up soon on our website at www.scu.edu/engineering/WTWT. Be on the lookout for the next episode of the Walking the Walk Together during the spring quarter of 2023. Thank you. Happy Girl Day of Viewing and have a lovely evening.